Hello everyone, it is the 14th of December 2023. This is the cert-manager bi-weekly meeting, and this will actually be the last one of the year, I assume. I'm assuming we'll cancel the next one, it's right at the end of the month. This is always exciting to get to the end of the year because we get to sort of look back on what we've done. But we're not going to do that. I'm just going to look back on the last 2 weeks since the last meeting, and I'll go over that stuff before we start. This is based on Peter's excellent suggestion in the last meeting that we should have some sort of recap and sort of talk about what's happened in the project for the last couple of weeks. So I'll just dive straight into doing that. The first thing to do is to update on what's going on with cert-manager's graduation. It has been raised with the CNCF. I can post a link to the PR in case anyone wants to do a thumbs up on it. Our current understanding is this is blocked on finding a sponsor within the CNCF TOC. We don't know how long that will take, but that's the thing that needs to happen. Obviously, our security audit is ongoing and will hopefully be done soon, but the main thing is that most of the work can be done once we have a sponsor. We'll continue to update in these calls and on Slack, I assume, as it goes on, but for now it's just a work in progress and there's not much as far as we can tell that we can do. That is the update. There's not really an update. More interestingly, we've released a few new versions of things, 2 versions of cert-manager, 1.12.7 and 1.13.3. They're sort of bug fixing patches. There's an approval policy release gone out, with many thanks to Eric, who isn't here today, but has been incredibly active in moving that project forwards. There's also a couple of other side project releases, which I'm not going to go into too much detail, they're minor. A couple of big PRs that I wanted to highlight from cert-manager. A big one that's come in is a community contribution, which I will link in the chat. That is name constraints support, which is it's always been on my mind to look at doing that in cert-manager, and someone has just gone ahead and done it, so that's awesome. Name constraints, if anyone watches this video, top tip, name constraints are incredibly dangerous and you should be scared of them, but when you know you need them, it's super helpful, and now you can use them in cert-manager. Specifically, be careful that the DNS name constraints apply to strings which are not domains. So if you have a CN which just is like Dave, the string Dave, that is a host name and will be checked against your name constraints. It can burn you. Another cool PR worth highlighting is this Trust Manager PR. This is a community member who's been super active in Trust Manager in just contributing stuff. His name is Alexander Krutko from Ukraine. He has done some awesome work. This is awesome. This adds, but this is part of adding passwords for trust stores that are generated in Trust Manager, which some people want, like the PKCS 12 and JKS. It's just good stuff. And finally, I think mostly this is Richard's work, who's in the call. He added Golang CI lint support to cert-manager, which is another thing that's been on the list of to-dos for a very long time, and it's awesome to have it. Like, this is already fixing lots of cool stuff. He's actively fixing more things and going through linters and stuff. It's the kind of belt and braces stuff that just pays dividends down the road, and it'll keep code quality up. So that's awesome. That's all I had on the update. Did anyone have anything they wanted to highlight from the last couple of weeks? Okay, I can hear crickets chirping, so I'm taking that as a no. Moving on to the actual agenda. First of all, cheers everyone. It's getting towards the end of the year. I've decided to have some festive cheer with this meeting rather than a hot drink. The agenda is quite bare, but what we have on it is Peter, so I will hand the metaphorical microphone over to you.
Thanks, I put that on about 3 seconds ago. So thank you for doing that 5-minute update, Ash. I think that's going to be useful for people to get a small glimpse of what's going on in the project in a very short space of time. I figured it seems as though I had a bunch of actions that it'd be worth just quickly going over the ones from last time. I can share the screen window, because I can maybe update on some. Ash, it looks like you've done some anyway, so you were really good at following up on your actions. I have not reviewed the Trust Manager tutorial, but will do at some point. I have initiated some contact with the upstream team on cluster trust bundles. I haven't asked them specifically about the projected volume mounting of cluster trust bundles, because I figured I'd try it first. So I've been doing some exploration, and first of all, had to figure out how to build a 1.29 Kubernetes CAN cluster, which I didn't realize you could just build it from the source and run. So that was really handy. That it worked quite nicely. So I now have somewhere I can go and try and test it and see what it's like. So that's my next step. After that, I'm gonna ask them about maybe once I know more about how the volume works, and you know, we can refer back to that conversation from last time about like what's the best way to move forward. I did look at the comment, but I didn't actually review it, so I'll add that to the list again. Hussein did tell me, I'll add a link in here, but he has started like a HackMD article, just kind of like listing down some of the places so where CAs are across OSs and different languages. So he has started looking at that, and yeah, I did add a top 5 things section for the agenda. So at least I did that bit. I did one of them. 1 out of 4 is pretty good. You know, it's better than none. But yeah, the others I will progress. And let's copy them over. In fact, just gonna copy these. Reminder for me to do them for the next year.
Brilliant. Doing one of them is more than a lot of people get done in December, right? Like it's getting towards the end of the year, people starting to check out of it. As this is I've only got tomorrow left to work, and then I'm done for the year. So it's I understand.
Yep, same here.
I'm very thankful to you for adding this actually, because it's inspired me to add a second thing to the agenda, which would be good for today. Are you done with that follow up, or is there any more?
Why am I? Sorry, you're just seeing my troubles that apparently I can't copy and paste. Yes, I'm done. I'll do the copy paste bit.
Fair enough. Well, thank you for the update. Yeah, the thing that I've just added to the agenda is mainly because the agenda is pretty light, so I figured it's worth having something to talk about. But also, this is kind of an interesting point of API design. We discussed it in the stand-up this morning. I don't intend to like go into any huge amount of detail with this, but it's tricky to design an API for allowing people to configure encryption algorithms, especially when you can't be 100% confident that the library that you're exposing won't change things in the future. I would invite comments if anyone has them now. Otherwise, I guess this one's for YouTube. But like the problem we essentially have here is this PR as implemented today adds options like AES, DES3, triple DES, and RC2. And those are the names of the options that we have, but they don't fully specify what the underlying algorithm is actually being used. So there's a password key derivation function, which is being used under the hood here, and there's a hashing algorithm, an HMAC algorithm that's being used. So we're not fully AES 256 doesn't fully specify what's going on under the hood. So there's other things that a power user would want to configure, but probably nobody wants to configure any of this, and they just want whatever's exposed under the hood. The PR author here responded saying just copy what they have one-to-one, and I think that's probably fine. I know I've not put much context on that. I know this is like a lot to just drop in. Quite an involved topic. Does anyone have any thoughts about it? Or?
When I read your comment, it wasn't fully clear whether you were proposing like a fix for this, or were you just like saying that this is a problem?
I don't think I'm explicitly saying. I don't think I was explicit about prescribing what the fix should be, but I think there is potentially a problem. I don't think AES, for example, is a valid name in this context, because there's at least two other like bits that you would need to configure. Like, you wouldn't just say you're going to use AES. You need to pick two other things to use AES. So it's not sufficiently descriptive. That's why the underlying library uses modern rather than saying AES.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the original PR had like more explicit naming, but then still, I think it would have been too little because it didn't include, I think, like the number of iterations and that kind of stuff.
I think the iterations is kind of flexible enough. Like the main things to me are the hash algorithm, the key derivation function, and the encryption algorithm. I think those, like, if we're going to be specifying like AES, we need to specify the other bits because they could be swapped out, or we just say something like modern, like the library does, and that's probably fine. And the question then, maybe a more interesting thing and a more accessible thing to discuss here, is that to test that, currently all these fields are private, and we can't create an encoder. That's only the library can create an encoder, because in Go, all of these fields that configure this are all private fields. So we could test this by using unsafe to read the values of the private variables in these structs and check that they don't change between versions of the library, so that we don't break our API accidentally as we upgrade the library version. Do we feel good about doing that? Like, do we feel good about reading like hidden secret variables? Probably we don't. Maybe we do. It might be helpful.
You can also set like a random seed and then check that the generated trust bundle equals or statically defined byte.
That's interesting. Yeah, like parse it back. Makes sense.
Is there a, because one of the concerns is you could copy it as is now, and the next release of that dependency could change how something works underneath. Assuming there's no automated way to check that, could you just add something to the dependency with a comment to say, like, if this dependency changes, this function needs checked in case it's changed through releases, or like something that if you do pull it in, it is a reminder for someone to go look at it. Not that they will, but it's something better than nothing, let's say.
I mean, yeah, the comment would be the simplest thing to do here. I think it is possible to write a test that would actually break if it was changed. The problem is that because that test would have to read private unexported fields on the struct, it would be brittle. So if they renamed one of the private fields, which they're totally within the rights to do, our test would break as well. The alternative to that is that the project, the dependency, could add functions for exposing those private variables, so we can rely on those functions. But obviously, that's an upstream change that we would need to get in there.
I would try to like create a bundle with some kind of known value and then compare that to a static value a static byte array that we basically generated previously.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Also, I'm wondering, in terms of like the names, can we just, I mean, we could just call it AES and then call the next thing AES v2 or something like that, right?
I mean, we can, but the problem is that AES doesn't fully specify what's going on under the hood. Like, the next version of AES could have a different key derivation function, and then it's a very different thing that would break people if they didn't support that new key derivation function. Like, if I look at the API that says AES, that doesn't tell me what I need to know about whether or not my software can actually consume things that are produced using that encryption algorithm. Admittedly, modern doesn't either, but at least with modern, it's clear I need to go and look it up, and I won't be confused, or we won't be omitting information by saying modern.
We should just match the OpenSSL flags, right? Isn't that the right way to do this?
OpenSSL.
Yeah, like the way that OpenSSL, that you would generate a PKCS 12 store using the OpenSSL commands. The flag you would provide there, copy that value. Or does that not make sense?
I imagine OpenSSL would let you configure this stuff, but I don't know. Like the problem with that is, like if you have a name like AES to PB KDF to blah 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 blah, like it's just quite a lot of words, and if you expose all of that to people, it's quite overwhelming. Like OpenSSL probably does have those options, but I mean, I don't think anyone either looks at OpenSSL as a shining example of API design either.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering, like, is there a place where we can borrow some terms that will not break people or that people depend on?
Well, the underlying library is functional, right? Like the library that we're depending on specifies profiles rather than algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
So the profile is modern, which is a particular configuration of AES with a certain key derivation function. So if we say modern and we say modern means whatever this library says it means, that's kind of defensible and it works. It's clear to people what that means then.
Should we just give 3 randomly named profiles, not modern, modern, not so modern, and just link them to whatever they are in the library underneath?
I think that is an option.
Yeah, maybe we should, like, for RC2, we should call it like deprecated, and DS3 should be called insecure compatible or something like that.
Or just completely leave any pretense of being serious and just feel like the RC2 one is just whoa, dude. Like triple des is just like I probably wouldn't, and that's how you request it.
And then modern 2023 would be like, because my security person asked for it.
Yeah, I like to pretend that I'm doing security when I encrypt my trust store. I don't know, like the PR author suggests just using the same names as the underlying one, and I'm kind of okay with that. I'm kind of just bringing this up as a discussion point and because it's kind of interesting, but like comments on the PR if you have them. Like it is the tricky point of API design, this. I don't really have much more on that, and I can see Peter has no, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm looking at the notes. Yeah, there's nothing else on the agenda. Did anyone have anything they wanted to bring up? General silence. I don't really have anything else myself. I guess this might end up being a short one to end the year off. I wasn't ready. I've not prepared my YouTube outro. I like those suggestions, Tim. You've put some suggestions in chat for how we can name this stuff. But yeah, I guess I'll sign it off if no one else has anything else. So thank you everyone in the call for joining. For anyone that watches us on YouTube, thank you. If we've got any super fans out there, like and subscribe. Have a good Christmas, everyone. A good festive period, and we'll see you all in 2024. And I nearly left the call rather than stopping the recording, which would have been embarrassing. I'll stop the recording now.